5:10, second hour of the mid-morning Y107.9 FM. It's a beautiful Wednesday. I told you guys earlier on that we're going to kickstart season 2 of the Y Leaderboard series. We're here to make that happen. Now, for most of you guys who are listening to the Leaderboard series for the first time, it's a series of YFM innovative radio programming content to develop the youth and provide inspiration to our listeners. Now, let's do a little bit of stats. According to stats, right, Ghana's population is young with about 61% being 30 years and below. Now, the International Labour Organization, ILO Youth and Future of Work survey shows that about 1/3 of the youth in emerging and developing countries view their future work life with fear and uncertainty. Now, YFM, Ghana's #1 youth station, Ghana's #1 urban music station, is taking it upon itself to ensure that we give the youth hands-on experience, hands-on advice. A lot of them are tired of the book inspiration. When you add 1 and 2 and 3 and 5 and you jump the stream, you're going to get to this level. No, we're bringing the leaders to you, tell their life stories, and then through that you learn a lot from it. Now, today is a special day for all of us. Season 2 is about to start. Now, it's said that things turn out best for people who make the best out of the way things turn out for them. It's also our ability to react positively to dire situations and proves, our mettle in endeavors. Now, Ghana's health sector is plagued with myriad of debilitating problems that threaten the impact of successive government effort to improve its fortunes after decades of independence. Now, for some individuals, however, it is what each person decides to do with their own lives, in their own small way, that makes the difference in our collective attempt to change the narrative and stand out as beacons of progress. Our guest on Y Leaderboard series this morning is a man who has and continues to stay an excellent man. I mean, he's touched a lot of things, transformed our health sector. He's done so many things we can talk of today. I mean, he's transformed a lot of health facilities and centers into centers of excellence, and he actually continues to do it till date. Now, he's been there and seen it all, currently at the very heart of Ghana's COVID-19 response, taking his turn on the Y Leaderboard series as the man with the Midas touch. He told me earlier on that he's always calm. I mean, I'm seeing it for myself. He's super calm this morning. Dr. Darius Osei, CEO of University of Ghana Medical Center, is my guest on the Y Leaderboard series today. So let's welcome him YFM style. Welcome to YFM, sir. It's good to have you on here.
Thank you.
Wow. So before we get into our conversation this morning, I mean, it's your first time out here, and YFM, we are good with surprises. I mean, we treat our guests so well. So I have a package for you this morning before we get into business. It's something that we want to give you in the near future. When you look at it, I mean, when you hang it at your office, whenever you turn your neck and look at it, you remember the good moments you spent with YFM, of course, the youth of Ghana and all of us. So this is a special one for you. It's from Memories on the Wall. Yes, they did a special one for you. Guys, hurry up with unwrapping. Thank you. And if you want to catch what is happening right now in the studio, kindly get on our Facebook, Y107.9 FM. Yes, that's a very, very special one for you, Doctor.
Yeah, that is very neat.
You love it, right?
Thank you.
It's a beautiful portrait of you.
Yeah.
Looking good in your suit.
Thank you very much.
And your badge. You never leave your badge out. Yeah. He has it on today as we speak as well.
Yeah. I mean,
thank you so much.
Leadership by example.
Yeah, I like that. All right, so we're going to take pictures with that, yes. That's a beautiful portrait of Dr. Darius Osei, presented by Memories on the Wall. If you want to be a part of this show, kindly hashtag Y Leaderboard series on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and get on our Facebook, get on our live on there, and watch what happens on here. So let's get straight into business. I mean, I want to find out more about where you started from, your childhood in particular. Any memories to share with us, and what kind of family environment did you grow up in?
Right. I grew up, my mother was a teacher.
Okay.
And then growing up, I did so with my stepfather.
Okay.
That was in Adabraka, and then later on in Asalam Down.
Asalam, that's where ETV is?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
And my mother used to teach, the cluster of schools going to Accra Central, those schools on the right side. She taught there for several years.
Okay.
And actually, that's where we schooled until I joined my uncle in my teen years. And so growing up, really, it was not a bit of a hassle, and it was very, very interesting.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah, because other siblings of mine are all boys. And we used to follow our mother every morning from Asalam down to Adabraka
Okay.
And that was the routine
Every day.
till I joined my uncle later on. Yeah.
I want to find out one thing. I mean, it's very interesting thing to know. I grew up with a lot of fear for my teachers.
Right.
You know, how they would cane you if you mess up. Was mom the teacher at home as well? Did she bring her teacher self home?
Interesting, you know, my mom never had a house help. So I started class 1 at age 4 and did so, repeated 5 until you are 6.
Okay.
And it happened to all my brothers. And so really, she was a teacher at home and then in school.
In school as well. Were you stubborn growing up? Did you ever encounter the teacher mom at home? You know, maybe you messed up and then you were treated like you were in school, like when things go wrong.
If you know the environment in Asalam Down at the time we're growing, then you need to be very strong to survive.
Okay.
Because these days and time, I think children are protected, but we were on the street.
On the streets.
And so you have to be strong to survive the street life because, you know, it was not easy at that time, but we survived.
Any fond memories, like any particular moment in your childhood you remember, like one that you've been holding on to since?
Well, many.
Many of them?
Many. Many, but the most memorable one was one day after just playing and coming home. And then my uncle, who was a soldier, came home and said, well, let's go for a ride. And then that was it. I never came back to my mother again. He took me to Takrady, and then I stayed with him for the rest of my life till I entered university. And so that was the most memorable day for me.
Your uncle comes home, tells you, let's go for a ride.
Yeah, and that was it.
And you never came home again?
Yeah, because then more or less I was uncontrolled, and my mother was a single mother then, and with boys, and so he decided to take over. But he did it in a way that was very unassuming. So,
when you look back to when all this happened, and you look at yourself now, do you feel it was the best move?
It was.
It was.
Because my discipline and my way of life and everything now, I owe it to the barracks life, the way we were managed, you know, at that early age of my life. Yeah.
Great. Now, growing up, I mean, last time I had an interview with Dr. Albert Okran, and he also shared the same, you know, view on that. A lot of us grew up loving the whole doctor mentality. Okay, we want to grow up to become doctors. I mean, for you, was it the same thing growing up and wanting to become a doctor, or something that just came up in the course of your life?
Something interesting happened when I entered St. Peter's Secondary School. You know, St. Peter's used to have zoos around with animals, snakes, baboons, and the rest. And in Form 1 first term, I was bitten by a baboon.
Wow.
And then I was sent to a TVA government hospital then in Kwau. At that time, the doctor was an American, SDA. And I loved the way the man spoke to me, you know, nursed my wound, and then I was impressed. So I said to myself, one day, if I should become a doctor, I'll come back here and work. And I don't know whether that influenced my vision and journey. And so when I finished medical school, I walked to Ministry of Health, and I said I wanted to go to a TB. And then the man said, are you crazy? Nobody wants to go there.
Wow.
But that memory was still there. So I went to a TB and I stayed there for 10 years.
The hospital that gave you your first experience, I mean, your first love.
That is Form 1, 1974. I mean, September. The first time I happened to be a patient to this hospital, and this was the American doctor who took care of me. And I was so impressed. I mean, I was touched. And that was when I promised myself that if I should become, in fact, at that time I didn't even know what I was going to become. But immediately I finished medical school, I went straight, and then I worked in a TBA for 10 years.
When you were a patient at a TBA hospital and you got a nice treatment, you pledged that if it goes well for you, if you're able to become a medical doctor, you would come back, and you did.
I did so.
How was the 10 years there? Was it fun?
It wasn't fun.
It wasn't fun.
I went to a TBA, you know, after medical school. I was in my early 30s. My wife is a doctor. But I wanted us to go to the community, and it was a challenge because everybody wants to go to Accra or stay in Kumasi. Actually, I did my house job in Kumasi, so naturally I would have loved to stay there, but I went to the community. And convincing my family to join me was a big challenge. But in the end, I'm sure everything that I owe today is the experience that
you got from that.
I gathered in the community. That is where, the empathy, sympathy, the need for the poor to also have access to care. And it makes you a complete human being.
Yes.
I mean, apart from your knowledge acquisition, you then learn about the way of life, and that kind of touch is what I'm sure has influenced everything that I'm doing today.
We're going to get back to medicine. I mean, people practicing medicine and going back to the communities to actually serve the people. Let's backtrack a little bit. I mean, I heard somewhere that you were called Parker back in St. Peter's.
You have really done a research on me.
How did that name come about?
Man. To come out from St. Peter's without a nickname, you should be lucky. And when it's given to you, you don't fight it, because then once you start fighting it, it means you don't want to continue schooling. I think this was impromptu, and after dinner, some group of guys just came and showering the name Parker suit, and well, I didn't know where it was coming from anyway, but I didn't resist, and it got to a point. I remember when I was in sixth form, a relative came looking for me and said he wanted to see Darius Osei. It took about 2 hours because that name was lost.
Nobody knew Darius.
And Parker was the name. And I remember a friend saying, now, we didn't hear the saying, I didn't encram
Parker.
Yeah, so, I mean, that is it. Everybody who goes to St. Peter's, one way or the other, you come out, and some of these names can influence you positively or negatively.
Was Parker the people's person or the reporter? I mean, the guy that would chook when things happen. I mean, what kind of student were you?
I was all over.
Some
of us, we grew up in Accra, and when we went to school, they call us the Accra boys. You know what it means?
Yeah. The French boys, the DB boys.
So, I mean, we're cool, and so if you know the history of St. Peter's, you hardly survive. I mean, you go in, and then by the end of the first year, most people are not coming back, or they are either repeated. I mean, for you to go through and finish, then you have to go through a lot of challenge academically.
I'm still interested in we talking a lot more about your days at St. Peter's. I mean, you are a big figure in health and sciences here in Ghana today. I mean, St. Peter's is known typically for science in particular. How well did the school prepare you for this future you find yourself in today? I mean, how enabling was the school when it comes to the sciences, education, teaching, facilities, all these things, during your time?
Well, St. Peter's was a great school, I should say. I mean, it's a Catholic school, and at the time we had a German headmaster, Father Glatzel. Very competitive. I mean, everybody wants to do science, but in Form 3, you should do maths above 75 before you can do science. And I remember in our class we were 43 science students, and out of these 43, 36 got 1 and 17 distinctions.
Wow.
And when you have even 90% in any subject, you are somewhere 28 or 29. So we didn't have too many teachers though, because where the school is cited, they say that it was not attractive for teachers to come over. But the school trained us to be independent, and we were able to study. I don't know what's happening now, but I hear they are still doing very well, because
they're beating people in the national science and math quiz and all that.
So I think their culture and tradition is still there.
on. Great. Now, just as any great person, growing up, you definitely have influencers. I mean, people you look up to in the kind of field that you want to venture into in the future. Growing up, did you have any influencers, people you looked up to?
I think for me, my uncles.
Your uncles?
Yeah, my grandfather had 18 children from 3 wives.
Wow.
And all my uncles most of them were graduates. And living in Accra with one of my uncles, I saw them passing through our home, to other places to do their postgraduate. They come back with good cars. We were washing these cars. And then, it was a lot of inspiration. And we realized early that the only way to make it is through academia. I mean, try to study. And so they really influence us. And, I have a lot of my cousins also, Esibe Yabua, Honorable, is my cousin.
Oh, great.
That is my mother's last born.
That's a big family.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of them. Everybody, I'm sure, we were all influenced by what we saw. So.
You obtained your medical degree in Ukraine and followed up with a master's degree in hospital management. Not the usual path taken by doctors on the regular. As you know, it's usually specialization. People want to venture into fields that they will specialize in. Were you more interested in the management of health than the practice of health, or it was part of your life givings? I mean, it just fell in.
No, I think in the district, I met very experienced doctors like Dr. Ken Segu, who used to be the director for Tamale Teaching Hospital and many others. I went there as a young doctor and humbly I studied under them until all of them went away. He later on went to become the regional director and then Dr. Sia also became Ifye Kwanta head. So my time came.
Yeah.
I said earlier that my wife was also a doctor, so I was spending most of my time in the hospital.
Okay.
It's like anytime my wife is on duty, I am on duty.
You're on duty as well.
And then if we have 4 doctors, half of the time I am on duty. So I fell in love with hospital, and I really thought the hospital is the last stop when the public health have failed in terms of health prevention and promotion, then the curative should be the solution. And so really, Atibia used to have very high mortality in terms of maternal deaths.
Maternal deaths, okay.
And it was worrying, but I did some research work and found out that most of these women who were dying on their full days were rating, 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and never will you see somebody dying around 12 or 1.
During the day.
And it was because most of these doctors were staying away a little bit from the hospital.
The hospitals.
The road was dark. They had dogs in their houses. So the nurses never risked their life going there in the night. But when it's getting in morning, then they are comfortable going there. So I came to Valco and pleaded, and they gave us an ambulance. I did a street lights from the hospital to the last doctor's bungalow, and then put in intercom system. And then the maternal deaths dropped to almost to nothing. In fact, this was very interesting, and Danida came and then did some work with us, quality assurance in healthcare. It was very successful. Most hospitals had to come to Atibia for a study tour. And I mean, almost all hospitals came to Atibia at that time. And so I got a scholarship to study. So really, these are the things that influenced my decision in going to hospital management. And then, I mean, there's no regret at all.
So in simple terms, you pretty much just wanted to solve more than the direct health problems.
Yeah, I mean, the problems were purely, one would say, not to do with the competencies of the doctors or nurses, but pure administrative flaws and simple tools that could be solved through interventions. And we appeal to the community. They help. Street lights, telephone, ambulance to pick doctors when they are on duty. And, the timeliness in solving problem was answered. So really, it was a success. And it taught us that, look, it is not always that the input in terms of money and things affects the outcome, but you can also work on the processes. They are very important and influencing the outcomes that comes out.
That's very impressive. I mean, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the health sector in a bit. Before we do that, you touched on family twice already. I mean, you mentioned your wife being a doctor and that. What is family to Dr. Darius, and how differently are you raising your children in today's fast-paced world from the way you were raised back then?
Well, I think family is important. I mean, it keeps you in shape. It also allows you to have some self-awareness and be very careful about what you do. And if you look at the nature of our work, we spend most of our time at workplace. But luckily, we've been able to have, my children are quite old now.
Okay.
I mean, they are able to take care of themselves. But I think the bigger I will give it to my wife, and she, because all the kids are girls, and so she did well in trying to put them in shape. And I should say, so far, I've not regretted at all.
You've not regretted.
Yeah.
One thing I picked from what you said was the fact that family helps shape you into what you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Give us a fair idea, how supportive is your family? I mean, doctors are usually gone for long, you're out, you're solving issues, especially during this COVID-19 period. You are almost always not at home. How supportive are they?
It's challenging. You brought this COVID matter up. At the beginning, you don't even know how to go home because you are not sure whether you're going to infect. So once you get home, they tell you to change yourself out there outside and make sure. But with time, they understood the fact that we also needed to inspire people, because really it was scary in the beginning. How do you convince your staff? People are dying. You open CNN and I mean, thousands of people are dying, and you are asking people to care for these people. And so you have to come out strong and exhibit leadership by example and lead. I mean, that is when leadership is called to. And my family understood the fact that this is what I've been doing all my life, and these nothing turns me away from the convictions. If I have to work towards that vision, and so I wouldn't say they give up, but they only have to support and then understand that I'm not the person who runs away from challenges. And so they supported, and then I'm sure now it's history.
I like that. Now, being a man of science, what is the fundamental principle on which your family thrives? I mean, is it science or spiritual? Is it religion? And what foundation do you think society should be built on? I mean, is it built on science? Do we build our family values on science or in spirituality? Or even merge both?
I think both.
Both, right?
I mean, religion guides us morally and I mean, ethically to be correct. And science is evidence-based. And for us as doctors, really, science should always be the most reliable. But again, you should also try to be religious and believe that you are not there on your own. But I mean, you cannot rubbish that aspect of it. So you have to blend the two.
Great. For the sake of people building their families now, I mean, some of us who are now about to build our families, what are some of the lessons parenthood has taught you and, has influenced your outlook of life in general? What are some of the basic things that you've learned through raising a family?
I think for you to be successful as a leader, first of all, apart from your knowledge acquisition and all that, you have to be a very good person. A good person come with certain attributes: empathy, sympathy, care for the needy, and also feel the same for others. These are essential. And for me, I think you cannot do away with these attributes and rely solely on your knowledge, intellect, because who cares about what is in your head when people cannot come close to you and you cannot impact on others? I'm sure that everybody wants to come close to people who have made it, and then you should be able to impact on them positively and then help the society, because you are living in a community and you cannot live in isolation. And so if you don't care about others, I'm sure then I wouldn't say your success has anything to go by, no.
Wow, that's deep. That's very, very deep in there. You mentioned earlier that you spent 10 years in Kwewu, and in that period, you were able to transform the place into a place of a health center of excellence. After that, you moved to Cape Coast Government Hospital, that's in Tibetan. I mean, ahead of
the regional hospital.
Yes, the regional hospital. Ahead of you, back in Kumasi, a cousin of mine worked there, so they were constantly mentioning Dr. Darius, Dr. Darius, Dr. Darius. Yes, you were very popular in Kumasi, by the way. I should mention that. What was the state of the facility before you took over, and what were some of the main challenges when it came to health delivery?
Tibetan was new. It was one of the modern regional hospitals that came. Then Suyane came, and then I think who also got one. When I finished, I did my master's in hospital management in administration. That's in Leeds. So immediately I came, I was sent to Cape Coast. That was 2002. The challenge was to come out with policies that will influence care, and then and we didn't have too many of specialists at the time. We had young medical officers, and then some Cuban doctors as well as Bulgarian surgeons. Gradually, we managed to get accreditation to attract other specialists, and then we got accreditation to do house job. And today I'm happy that where I sit at UGMC, I've seen some consultants who did house job under me in Cape Coast then. That was 2002, 2003, 2004. And then we started the medical school in Cape Coast. That was 2005, until I joined SNET in 2006. It was challenging because it's just like the challenge I'm working on now. New, fundamentally, if you're able to get it right the first time, that is the quality definition.
Yes.
What is difficult in life is managing change. When it's already not working and you have to manage it. So you have all the opportunities to institute the institutional tradition and culture. And you also have to come out with certain personal qualities that influences the people you are working with. And I think the last time I visited Cape Coast, honestly, I was so happy that...
You're impressed.
Yeah, very, very. That, the hospital has turned into something, and I was happy and humbled.
You mentioned one thing that I'm very much aware of, the fact that you at a point had to bring in a lot of expatriate, young specialist doctors, to come in and then solve the many situations that were there. Was it a deliberate plan initially? I mean, if we had a situation whereby we had enough medical practitioners here, specialists here, would you have still reached out to them?
Definitely. I mean, it's the same thing I'm going through now. And why would people want to work with you? I mean, that is the question. You should be able to have certain qualities that attracts people to work with you. because the first thing is trust, and then respecting people. If you talk about doctors who have trained themselves to be specialists, there's no way you want to underrate them at all. The fact that you have the opportunity to be the head doesn't mean you should not listen to them and then use their inputs for improvement. And so we were able to build this critical mass of young people around whose inputs were also taken on board. And I think it worked. And I'm happy that, Cape Coast Regional Hospital now is a teaching hospital and is turning out one of the best doctors coming out.
In all these things that happen, I mean, in all these great milestones, what specifically do you think made your team stand out? I mean, the team that transformed the hospital. I mean, just beyond proper healthcare delivery, beyond you bringing on board all these great specialists, I mean, there might have been something in there that made the team stand out.
Well, specifically, I think it all boils to if you're a doctor and then a specialist, it does not necessarily make you a good manager.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm a doctor and I have a postgraduate in management.
Okay.
And I think this is what makes the difference, because the basic principles of management must always come to play.
Okay.
I mean, how do you work with teams? How do you delegate functions? How do you make sure that you manage people? I mean, we easily write off people because they have been branded bad people in other organizations. We have to be able to know individuals, because we've all been brought up in different environments and our influences are different. But if we are able to know the weaknesses and strengths of every individual, I'm sure we can manage them very well.
The human resource factor.
But I've worked with people who have been branded as these are people we cannot work with. But I've been able to work with them because I'm not sure any human being is said that he cannot be managed. And I think these things are all things that we learn. And the fact that you have the MBA, the Masters in Management, also does not make you a good manager. And I think experience is also important. I did my Masters in the year 2000, and so we are in 2020, right? Yes. 20 years.
Yes, exactly.
And really, the qualification itself doesn't mean anything, but the failures that comes along every day acts as inputs for correction, and then you become a better person. So experience is something that you cannot write off. They are necessary. And when we say success, it is failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm. I mean, you have to have that conviction that the sky is the limit.
Doc, I think you should consider adding a motivational speaker to your profession. That's a lot of, wisdom bullets right there.
Thank you.
Wow, impressive. The Trust Hospital under your leadership unveiled a DNA testing equipment, which was actually the first to be established in a private hospital in West Africa and second in Africa. What was the rationale for this investment, and how has it improved health service delivery in the country?
Well, I think the DNA machine was placed in Korle Bu. It was placement at the time, and they needed to pay some money to the company that placed it, but it didn't work out. So they approached the Trust Hospital, and I was able to convince the board then. And then we got it. And I realized that if we have a molecular lab, there are a lot of things that we could do. Really, we train some doctors, we send some doctors to Germany, and South Africa to be trained
Yeah.
on the machine, and they came back. All the courts in Ghana, from north, south, these days paternity test is very common.
Yeah, it's a regular thing now.
Yeah, and really, the Trust Hospital was the most reliable place that these courts were asking. So it became, first of all, solving people's dilemma and problems. Secondly, became a source of revenue. And I don't know, I think it's still functioning. We wanted to have a one-stop care in Trust Hospital where almost everything that is referred to as can be done, and that was the vision. So the DNA test and the molecular lab was one of the aspects to solve certain problems.
And I must say, it's been of great help to, a lot of cases out here. I mean, in the past, people got away with a lot.
Oh, well.
But I mean, there are lots that have even been
Probably
in the
it
news.
would also be better not to know.
Well, I mean, you see, a near who any time, right? No, but sometimes you really have to see. You find out years after, and it's not so pleasant. I mean, if you find it out earlier, it saves you the stress.
We have been adopting people, and
Those cases are different. I think those ones are different. Doc, so having successfully, managed hospitals across the country at different levels in your career, what would you describe as the biggest challenges faced by hospital administrators? And through that, what advice would you give to young medical doctors who have big responsibilities on them when posted to remote areas, especially?
well, there are certain framework that we call the clinical leadership.
Okay.
That I think you have to be able to get right before you can be successful in managing this. The first of it all is demonstrating the personal qualities, which I said. And that these, you have to be able to develop some self-awareness, to know where you are. There are a lot of friends that I cannot fraternize now because your self-awareness development is important. You also have to manage yourself very well and make sure continuously you are developing yourself personally. It is embarrassing for your doctors to come to you asking you about the modern things that are happening in medicine, and you are ignorant. So continuously personal development is important.
It's important.
Then you have to also act with integrity.
Okay.
And then the second most important is working with others. You should be able to develop networks that goes beyond your facility. Your hospital is in the community.
Yes.
We are now in Legon. How do I get along with the VC, the provost, and others? You are not alone. The network development is important. And then you build and maintain relationships. It's very important. And then you also have to encourage contributions from others. I mean, you can call me any day and tell me, oh, Doc, why don't you think? And, it may sound to you, but if you're a good person, you listen very well, and then you take it on board. You should also learn how to work with teams. And then the third aspect is managing services. As a manager, do you plan at all? You have to plan the services and then make sure you are mobilizing resources. And resources here is getting the various doctors. These are all human resources. And then deploying them appropriately. You are mobilizing revenue, and then you are deploying them reasonably, because corruption in healthcare, the result is always a disaster. The outcome that we get in our workplace is always morbidity or mortality. And make sure you're also managing people. I said this already.
Yes.
And then we have to also improve services. We have to ensure patients are safe, the safety of patients. We have to do evaluation critically of the outcome of the care that we do. And then we must also encourage innovations and technology that are coming on board. we have to identify the changes in the context
Yes.
that we live. That, look, a success story in Accra is not necessarily the same in Kumasi
or Tamale.
Yes, so these are the attributes that the clinical leadership should always be looking for. And once you have these, then you are not just managing, but you are trying to put all these framework to play. Again, there are three major stakeholders in healthcare. We have the clients who are coming to access care.
Yes.
And then you have to understand their perspective. What is a sick person looking for? He just wants to be seen quickly with dignity and respect. And then the provider of service, what does he need? He also needs the tools. You have to also capacity building of these persons and make sure they are satisfied socially. I mean, we assume that health workers are not human beings.
That's the truth.
They have social problems. People come to work in the morning and they have domestic problems. Who is finding out about all this? And for us as managers, how do we make sure efficiency is matching effectiveness? When we talk about effectiveness in healthcare, it has all to do with how many people are you seeing and how many people are getting well. The fact that you saw 100 patients doesn't mean anything. That same person can come on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
That's true.
It means your quality of work is not up to tax. Doing the right thing the first time is what you call quality. The diagnosis must be spot on. You don't waste the person's time, your own time. You don't waste medicines, laboratory investigations. He comes on Monday, you do the trial and error. He comes on Wednesday. So that is, for me, the effectiveness that you are looking at. And for me, if you are effective, you are efficient. Because there is also medicines that should be given for 100 people. You end up giving it for the same person. Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday different. So all are the things that we need to bring together as a leader. So we will ask that people who want to manage hospitals must be exposed to certain training. Not necessarily the best gynecologist or pediatrician, but must understand all these framework and then make sure that all these stakeholders, their perspectives are taken into consideration.
Doc, do you think we should get to a point where every single practitioner, every single doctor should be equipped with these things that you just outlined? I mean, these are things that should be with every practitioner, because you might experience it somewhere along the line. Let's say we get to a point where there's an outbreak and we have only 10 doctors in Ghana, and these doctors are equipped with these things. It means if we spread them across, 10 of them in their own special ways, in their own small spaces, will be able to solve a lot of the issues. Shouldn't we get to a point where these things become a part of the practice, whether you want to be a leader, a manager, or just a doctor practicing on the field?
I think so, because if you go to other places like electricity company and others, I mean, you can become the head of the place when you are not an engineer. So the plan is, after a certain level, they are trained to do some management courses, because you are a potential leader. You know, and is it so in the healthcare? I don't think so. Most of the times, I think the most experienced, best doctor becomes the head. But with all the explanation I'm giving, it goes beyond just getting your clinical excellence, but you also need to understand certain perspectives.
The managerial bit of the work, very, very important. Moving on, you were actually appointed CEO of the UGMC at the height of the storm over who takes over the facility. How did you manage the climate at that time and steer it forward? I mean, how did you do it?
Well,
it's something a lot of people want to find out.
I entered the place alone, but now we are about 560, and a journey of 1,000 miles.
Begins one step.
Yeah, but you should have clear in your mind what you need to do, and then you need to do them in steps. Up to now, I think we've not come out to announce ourselves strongly, but we are doing a lot. And in fact, the COVID itself was a test. In as much as we are still not fully ready, because UGMC is in 2 phases. The first phase was completed in 2017, 2016. And then the second phase is ongoing. It will be completed in April 2021. Yeah. And a lot of the second phase has all to do with first phase. So we are unable to fully come out. But that notwithstanding, we are doing a lot of treatments there. We're obstetrics, gynecology services, pediatric services, family medicine, gastroenterology. All of them are ongoing as I speak, in addition to managing the COVID patients. But when we were announced to be the treatment center, in fact, it was challenging because most people were not ready to go along. What we did was to build the capacity of our staff so that all the safety measures will be taken into consideration. If you recall, Gan East was the first treatment center. So we mobilized our staff, the doctors, nurses, and all the management staff. We visited Gan East, and at least we had an idea of the safety measures. And then we came back home and then also plan. I must say it has been very successful. We have seen a lot of almost 400 patients. That is in-house. Apart from that, we manage over 1,000 patients from their homes because we collaborated with pharmacists and then got an app called the Lucy. Yeah, which we were using. We have over 4,000 subscribers with this app. And we are monitoring them every day. And this app automatically assesses individuals and puts you in the mild, moderate, or critical. And once you are in the moderate, you are picked to our center. So far, the story has been very successful. It is not by chance. It is all about organization, and then people believing in it. Our staff have been. We've had some few. About 44 of our staff got the COVID though, but none was in any critical condition. We've managed them, and we couldn't run away from the challenge that came on us. And I was coming to work every day, including Sundays, just to let my people know that they are not in this alone, because I didn't want to feel that, I have run away from the fight. And so we're there together.
I want to find out from you, right, as a leader in a very difficult time like this, beyond regular motivation, beyond regular returns on work for these health workers you worked with, how were you able to convince all of them to stay on the battlefield? Because I know it goes beyond just you doing your job. This was an issue the world had never faced before. As a leader, what was the pull factor?
People must trust you. And you say, you can always take credit for the results that comes out positively. But people must work for you, and they can only do so when they trust you. And then you have also been able to exhibit your strength and expertise. There are certain resources that you rely on as a leader, and the first of it all is the legitimate power that is given to you to head. That legitimacy is important, because then and then the second aspect is the expertise power that you have. Do people trust you at all, so far as the job you are doing is concerned? And can they rely on your word? And are you driving all of them in the direction that they are sure with you it is the truth? When there are doubts around, then I'm sure you get people falling off the line. But I think in my case, I think they believed in me, and I was able to flow with them. And I think I'm very happy and commend all my directors who worked with me. Everybody was in it. And so there was nothing that I promised them. It's all about what the government had promised. But really, they did fantastic work. They did
fantastic job.
Yeah.
Aside that, I mean, we commend you on what you just spoke about, but there's been a lot of talk about how special UGMC is and what it can offer in terms of quality health delivery. I mean, beyond COVID-19.
Yeah.
For those of us who don't really know and understand how the system works, tell us just how important this facility is and how it can change the face of health delivery in Ghana. I mean, you mentioned a few things that are being done there currently in phase 1 beyond what COVID-19 has to offer, and that. How important is this facility?
It's a game changer.
Okay.
UGMC is going to become the game changer. We are organizing that care, and it should be different from what we all know. And I've said a lot of things about the perspectives that we are looking at. This is a 1,000-bed facility after completion. And we are going to rely on the highest technology in terms of minimally invasive technology, which mostly are called the quaternary care, that is the subspecialties. We have taken our time to engage consultants from all over the country. We are still taking our time. We are not in a rush. And at the end of phase 2, I'm sure everybody will be advised to get a card with us.
Okay.
After this program, probably I will urge all of you to come and register with us, and then make sure your families are taken care from UGMC.
Doc, don't you think we should get to a point where this should be the case in all hospitals? I mean, as a health worker, do you think what is happening at UGMC is happening anywhere else in Ghana? I mean, you've been at places. Don't you think we should have the same standards everywhere? Because you're speaking so well of, UGMC and things that can be done to change the nation. I mean, can't we have like 645 more of this facility?
I'm praying so. There should be peer review at a certain point.
Okay.
But for me now, I'm focusing on one good thing to happen.
Okay. All right. Now, okay. Let's just backtrack it a little bit. How prepared were you and your team when UGMC was initially designed or designated as a COVID-19 treatment facility? Were you guys ready?
Yeah, that's what I said, that we didn't see it coming, but we actually took time and prepared ourselves through training. Noguchi came to train our staff. We also went on the tour to see what was being done at Ghana East. And then we encourage our people. We got a team. We actually did not do the regular shifting system. We got 20 designated doctors and 50 nurses, trained them. And these are people specifically managing COVID. And some of the doctors stay there 72 hours without going home. And up to now, I think we are still continuing. And so really, with time, they build the capacity, the safety measures, and then they got some experience in managing these patients. So it's all about the strategy that one adopts when we are in crisis.
And then we got into the crisis and things changed for the facility. I mean, when we sit down and analyze how the hospital is being run now, what are some of the things that were altered by the COVID-19?
Well, I think the COVID also gave us, pushed us to the limelight. Okay. And then, again, it was a test. I mean, if the results were negative, probably you will hear the story. So really, it means we stood up to the test. And so we are happy.
And in the course of what we spoke about previously, you mentioned that about 40 of your staff were infected with the virus. We had news of other health facilities losing their health workers to that. I mean, we didn't hear anything of that nature with UGMC. How different did you treat your...
Yeah, well, I was not in favor of the panic and announcing and closing down facility. And because I told my people, look, if we close down, it means we have failed the public. So we had to manage those who got sick and then, review our strategies anytime that we have any of these events. So we never announced ourselves to the public. And then we took it up and managed our people, assured them and give them all the support that is required. And luckily for us, I mean, everyone is okay.
So, I mean, all these things that happened were kept from the public.
Yeah.
Were you in fear of the stigma
Not
that would
at
have been
all.
attached to the facility? Was it the reason
Not
why?
at all. I mean, the beginning, the stigmatization was a problem, and that was why we were getting a lot of mortalities, because people were running away from it. They didn't want to announce their status, and they come in very sick. But now I think gradually, the results are better now, because people have come to accept the condition. That is one of the things that we have to live with.
According to you, I think I heard this somewhere. Was it on? I think it was on an interview. You mentioned that the government spends 8,000 Ghana cedis each. 80,000. Yes. Let me just state it right. 80,000. I beg your pardon.
Averagely.
80,000. Yes, averagely on each patient.
That is ICU.
In ICU. That is intensive care unit.
Right.
Do you think it's sustainable? And should the government be more intentional about funding research into our own vaccine?
Well, I think in terms of pandemic, and crisis, there should always be a strategy to solve the problems. COVID treatment so far is free. And I told you we've seen over 400 patients, about 36 through ICU. And as I speak now, we have 3 in ICU. Nobody has paid a dime. It's free. And I think if finance had become a stumbling block and people had the excuse that I don't have money, then they would have stayed in the community and spread.
And died, probably.
And I think it was a good thing. Averagely, people come and what kills them is their comorbid conditions. People with hypertension, people with diabetes and other conditions. So you are not only treating the COVID in boosting the person's immunity, but you're also treating other conditions that will send him. So even apart from the ICU patients, averagely, every patient that comes there and stays there for about 9 to 12 days, we spend quite a lot of money. And ICU, we use consumables. Everything that we use are disposable. And the medications, and people lie on the ventilator sometimes 3 weeks. As I speak to you, we have one patient who's been on it for 4 weeks. And this morning, as I was checking, the bill was over 128,000 or so.
And they don't pay a dime for this?
No, everybody gets up and go home. So really, I mean, it was a good thing, because, and it is for both nationals and non-nationals.
And this funding is being done by the government?
Yeah, pre-financed.
Now, even though our case count keeps increasing, the number of recoveries in particular are more encouraging according to the stats. In your opinion, what have we done right? What are we doing right? What are we doing differently? And can we confidently say we're almost out of danger as a country in COVID-19?
For me, I think the biggest thing is the stigma that we've been able to deal with. People are coming on time. With all the admissions that we've done, what we do is we collect the contact names of all people they've come. Some people are able to give us contact names of 60. We invite all of them, and then they come and do the test. I mean, surprisingly, you see a lot of them positive, but they are fine. some of them negative. So we've not been able to actually determine any trend in terms of specifically. It all has to do with the individual constitution and your body makeup. People get it. I mean, they stay on the ventilator for 3 weeks, they get up and go. People come in, they don't make it. And so really, you cannot describe any trend in terms of the nature of the COVID and its outcome. But from where we sit, as I speak, in 3-4 weeks ago, we had 30 bed, and the 30 bed was every day full. Once you discharge, another set comes in. But now we have just about 10 patients on the ward. For the past week or so, we've never had more than 10. Really, it tells you that something good is happening. Either people are taking the protocol measures seriously, or because of the awareness, people are, going to facilities on time and they are being cared for. You cannot pinpoint exactly the positive news, but it's getting better.
It's getting better.
Yeah.
You are a health personality directly involved with COVID-19 and the combat. When you drive out of the office and you are driving through town, you get to the marketplaces, pubs, bars, and the likes, and you see people walking about freely without their mask and the like. How do you feel?
Well, there's something you can't control. I think people have been reckless a little bit, but we are seeing a lot of people trying so much to it's better than before. But the marketplace, I don't know, it's magic out there, but for some of us, we've tried very much to be very careful. I don't want to visit a friend for the friend to say I came to kill him. So I straightly make it between my home and then my workplace. And it's all part of the precautions that personally we want to take. It's been very difficult because we are living in a society where you have your friends losing their relatives, and the excuse of COVID should not prevent you from mourning with them. But again, we have to be very careful
and safe.
Yeah.
Beyond COVID-19, what future do you envisage for UGMC, and what role as a CEO do you intend to position the magnificent edifice to play in the healthcare delivery in Ghana and across the sub-region?
UGMC is going to become a hospital that will be looking at the perspectives of the various stakeholders and make sure it stands out. We have started strongly that no relative will be involved in the care of patients. This is one thing that beats my imagination. When relatives have to be part of care, carrying test tube to go and take blood samples, going to pick drugs from other places, that is not medicine. We are going to make sure that people who come there to access care will be given the care in a more dignified way, with respect, and then timely. That is why we are not in a rush, but trying to educate all the people. All the people we are working with have come from all over, Kwalibu, Rage, Tamale, but we are trying very much to nurture a culture and a tradition that is different. And more so, this is an environment where we have the electronic medical records. The folders are all sitting on the servers. And so we need time to train people to be conversant with the software, and then make sure that you don't go back to the paper environment. And the whole care plan here will be different, and we are taking our time to get it right. So far, so good. This morning, I was watching. Last month, we saw 560 patients. Today is 19th. We've already seen about 299.
Yes.
This morning. So we are picking, and gradually, by the end of the year, I'm sure we will be strongly out there, and then we will make sure you get the services that you require.
That's a lot of good service. I mean, I would have to commend you at this point. You're doing a great job. People really need to find out the particular things people like you are doing. I mean, we just know you are in charge of places like UGMC, but the specifics are quite, are large when it comes to people knowing what needs to happen. And that is why the board series is here. I mean, I believe a lot of health workers, people who don't even work in the health field, are inspired by this. But at this point, I want to find out, beyond work, I mean, there should be a component of fun in your life. What things you do? Do you like music? Do you play a sport?
I'm very boring.
Are you sure?
My life is consumed with all of it.
Okay.
But I really am a social human being.
Okay.
I have very good friends, but I'm never carried away because wherever I find myself, I'm still conscious of the fact that by 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, I should be in the office. And then everybody can testify. By 7 o'clock, I'm right there. And so you are unable, your friends find you boring. Well,
but I'm sure maybe in your own special corner, there might be, you like to watch movies, music. What kind of songs you like? What kind of songs
I put on the telly, then I realize the television starts watching me. But I wake up early. Normally by 8:30, I'm fast gone. Maybe by 2-3, I'm awake, and then start going through things. I'm able to access the hospital virtually from my home.
Your home.
So,
before things got super busy like this now, I'm sure you had time for some small chilling. Before your friends started saying "Sisi Awo Kono," I mean, there were things that you loved: music, live band.
Yeah.
What is it for you?
Once in a while, you participate because you are pulled to join. Yeah, but I said that managing yourself, the personal qualities in the work that you do. The hospital has the biggest constitution in terms of health workers, nurses, doctors. The leadership role here means that you should carry yourself in a manner that you are not found in places in any controversy, because it compromises your authority. And so once you are a clinical head, I don't know about others though, but I'm very careful about the personal qualities and where I am at any moment
where
in
you
time,
find yourself,
and then how to carry yourself, because it is important. Maybe in some few years, I'll join the public.
No problem, sir. We're gonna take a break.
It's not that I don't want to.
I know,
but
you're busy.
Trying very hard to resist the temptation.
We will allow you. I mean, we'll give you the space for now.
Right,
whenever you're ready, whenever there's time, I mean, we'll still call you back.
I'm sure you invite me to your home one day.
Listen, you don't have a problem. When you want the best, when it comes to entertainment, we have it.
Thank you.
When it's music, we have it. Anything that is fun, we got it for you. I mean, whilst you are working on the front line, ensuring that we stay healthy and alive, we are entertaining the rest of them. So we'll both come back at a point and then, balance it in there. We have a few questions coming up. I mean, the next set of questions are going to come from our listeners, but let's take a quick break. Don't forget, this is the Wiley the Board series, Y107.9 FM. Hashtag Wiley the Board series gets your questions in 0202222073. If you are on our Facebook now, watching us via Y107.9 FM, make sure you share the video, right? Share it so your friends can also share and reach out to a lot more people. We have Dr. Darius Osei, CEO of the University of Ghana Medical Center in the building. Y107.9 FM. Dr. Darius Osei is in the building. Wiley the Board Series.
Don't you rush your life just to do
I'm going to take questions from you guys now, so send it through 0202222073. Shouts going out to Yao Puni on our Facebook. We are live on there. Make sure you check us out, Y107.9 FM. Doc, I have a question for you from one of my listeners. His name is Lester Ohene. Says, so what does Doc have to say about the people selling PPEs for money? The ones from Anas's video, the expose. Doc, have you seen the video?
No.
You haven't? All right. So apparently some health workers in Ghana were hoarding the facilities provided, the PPEs provided by the government and selling it at high rates to the public.
And what was the public going to use the PPE for?
Protect themselves.
I mean, have you seen the PPE? The PPE, everything, including the marks, are all branded under the PPE. So specifically, if it is the overall, I don't know how people wear that in town, or they were going to wear it. Maybe they were selling to the health professionals.
Yes, they were selling to some of them. I mean, the ones in the private, the ones who didn't have access to them.
That is wrong. Well, we never experienced that at my place. And again, it talks about the supply chain management, who is keeping the supplied items and how are they distributed to the places that needs to have them. So there are flaws in the system that gives people access to.
All right, another message in here. Your number ends with 36. It says, please ask him how he does, how he clears off challenges he faces in the health field. I mean, he touched on a few of them earlier. Doc, how do you, they want to find out how you deal with the challenges you face in the health sector. If you're faced by a challenge, how do you go about it?
Well, challenges are numerous. It depends on the challenge. Is it coming from the provider or the person assessing care or the managers themselves? So each problem comes with its own solution.
Great. Yeah. All right. So I think that's all by the way of, okay. I hear UGMC offers CT scanning services. Is this true? It's coming in from Osei Puku.
Yeah, probably let me tell you the services that we offer for now. Once you're diabetic or hypertension or any secondary condition, you can just come to our OPD and get a card and we'll see you. We do very good obstetrics, that is antenatal for pregnant women.
Okay.
And then we do deliveries as well as postnatal care. We have pediatricians who also take care of the kids. We also have the family physicians running clinic every day.
Okay.
We have the urologists who see the prostate cases and the likes. We have the general surgeons there to see all surgical cases. We also have the the eye, and then the ENT will be coming on board very soon, and many others. We also have all the diagnostic tools, the laboratory services, CT scan, mammogram, angiography, and MRI are coming by the end of September. So all services, and nobody's restricted. You can access care from wherever you find yourself.
Okay, great. Doctor, it's said that in a room with 10 successful individuals, the meaning of success will definitely be different and perceived differently by each of them. What is success to Dr. Darius Osei?
I think I said it before, that failure to failure, should not lose enthusiasm at all. For me, success can never be defined in terms of monetary terms. A successful person must be able to act as a role model to people, and everybody wants to be like him. You should also be able to impact on the community in which you live, the society. If I look back, when I joined the Trust Hospital, for instance, the staff strength was 279. When I was leaving, there were 680. And so your good works probably have been able to put food on people's tables, and you're happy. Where I find myself now, I want every day to be a better person, and then to influence positively on people around me. I want to act well and exhibit all the qualities that people will want to be like. And for me, the definition of success is not losing the enthusiasm despite all the failures that comes along.
Don't give up.
Yeah.
That's the word. So aside your perception on success, what legacy would you like to leave behind for the next generation of health workers, doctors, administrators, I mean anyone in the field?
Yeah, I really want to see healthcare where all these perspectives from these stakeholders are properly taken care of. The clients who access service are satisfied with their work. They are treated with respect and then in a dignified manner. And they will want to come back again for care. And then providers of service also, their needs are considered. I mean, they should not just be condemned. We should find out about their inadequacies, build their capacities, train them to use the amenities that we are providing, and make sure that they provide the best of care, and also to be able to build capacity of managers who will be managing hospitals. These are the three major stakeholders that if we are able to address all these major concerns of the major players, I'm sure healthcare will be a thing that we all want to see.
After all these things are done, I mean, after you decide to put your tools down from what you're actively involved in now, do you have plans of venturing into anything else? If you're faced with, let's say, a position to, or the appointment to pick up, let's say, a health minister position, would you consider?
When we get there,
we'll cross it, right? We'll make that happen.
For now, I'm focusing on what I'm doing.
This. You're just keeping your hands busy with this. All right. Doctor, finally, any words of encouragement or inspiration for young people out there working their way up, not only health workers, not only the ones who are interested in venturing into the health sector?
Yeah, I will ask that we should try to be very patient, but we should all have some vision, and then we work towards the vision. There are no shortcuts. Shortcuts pays, but they are very short-lived. Nothing comes easily, and if you don't serve, you don't get anything. We should be very patient and then build ourselves. It gets to a point the society needs you more than you need them. And where you find yourself, people will want to bring you from your hole to come and contribute. And so people should take time and build themselves well, and make sure they impact positively on the society.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much for spending time with us. It's been an hour and 32 minutes of talk. I mean, every bit of what you said is appreciated. We thank you so much, for spending time with us, taking time off your busy schedule to talk to our youth. Ghana is proud of you. We're happy to have people like you. We just look forward to seeing a lot more young people venture into places that you've been to. Get into the realm that you are in right now. So well that we get a lot of interest in ensuring that humanity is safe, to take care of ourselves. To be each other's keepers. Thank you so much on behalf of Global Media Alliance, YFM, the Mid-Morning Crew, Wiley the Board Series. I want to say a big thank you. And once again, whenever you look back and watch that portrait on there with the YFM logo on there, you remember the good points that you shared with the youth of Ghana.
Thank you. I appreciate these gifts, and I'm sure I'm going to place it in a place where everyone will see with your logo on. And I will ask you that you all register with UJMC.
I'll actually go there. We'll go there this weekend. And I'll see
you are sure to get the best of care.
All right.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Discipline on the track.
Guys, that was Dr. Darius Osei. great guest, I must say. I appreciate every single moment. Really enjoyed it. I mean, he mentioned that he was a calm person in the beginning of the interview. I just wanted to wait and find out how calm he is. Super, super calm, man.
This is YFM.